Hey guys, Steven here, back with another episode of the VANCAST, and this is episode 7 with Joe Moore. So Joe, somebody I just recently, a couple 6 months ago, I found him off of another channel who makes similar videos to mine. YC Imaging. I mentioned him in a couple of my videos, and let me just talk about how I first found him. He probably doesn't know at all. So YC was doing a live stream with Justin Odisho and C Ryan, and that's sort of how I found you and all that. And then I decided follow you and all that. And then you were on tour with Chainz, and you posted something on your story where you were replying to fans and stuff. And so I thought I'd hit you up and I asked you if I could kind of meet up and kind of follow you around or whatever. And you said yes, and that's sort of how we connected. And just that kind of shows you how much you really appreciate all the support and everything, because you'd reply even just replying to your messages and all that. I really appreciate it. And now we're doing a podcast together, so that's really cool. So I just want to give you a chance to talk about what you do, who you are, where you're originally from, and how you got started off.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that's how you originally found me. I mean, obviously, I remember you reaching out to me, and every city that I was going to with Chainz during that tour, I was basically working with or trying to allow up and coming photographers or just photographers in general, if they wanted the opportunity to come and film to Chainz's tour. I was looking out for them. Obviously, it was only going to be for the first 3 songs, but I know that meant to a lot. I know that meant a lot to certain people. So yeah, that's actually cool to hear how you originally found me. So I've actually been told by a lot of photographers, videographers, editors, etc., that they started to find me through that podcast or that live stream or whatever you want to call it that Justin had did with YC Imaging and C Ryan. So that's dope to hear. So yeah, where do you want to start first? How I got into
I think it was I was more interested in where you grew up, what were your interests growing up, and what was going through your mind when you were sort of before you got into cameras and all that sort of stuff. What was your mindset at?
Okay, well, so I actually got into toying with cameras in 3rd grade. So really kind of my memory is kind of shot before all that, because obviously 3rd grade you're 8, 9 years old. So before that, I mean, I just did regular kid stuff. I mean, play outside, hang out with friends. But at a very early age, like I said, around 3rd grade, 8, 9 years old is when I started kind of playing around with cameras. And that was through my grandfather. And, I look at him as a big inspiration. And, that's basically what made me want to pick up a camera, due to him always filming stuff in our family and filming everything. I mean, events. Just regular downtime. He would just film a lot of things. So he was a big inspiration to me, and that's just kind of how I fell into toying with cameras. But outside of that, even, at 3rd grade, I'm not sitting there with a camera 24/7. So outside of that, it was just, regular kid things. Like I said, hanging out with friends, riding bikes outside, just things you would do as a kid, playing video games, playing sports outside with local neighborhood kids and stuff like that. So just regular kid things outside of doing something with that big heavy camera. So that's basically all I did as a kid, was just whatever you would expect as kids to do. And then as I got older, I mean, that's really kind of when photography, videography, and just anything with a camera in general kind of took over my life. So
when did you start starting to make money off of it? Your first gig or stuff like that? Was that in high school, before high school? How did yeah.
It was in high school. My actual first kind of gigs making money related to photos or videos was doing, hold on, excuse my phone's going off. So basically my first way of making money was doing high school parties. I actually was, like I said, in high school, I was the kid that, would always have a camera around filming my friends and stuff like that. And it just so happened, obviously, in high school, you go to parties and stuff like that. So I would always take my camera with my friends to our high school parties and, just film everything and anything going on at that party. And then, that kind of led over to, putting out recaps and putting out fun moments and stuff like that on YouTube or Facebook at the time, MySpace, whatever. And then, people kind of just started to contact me word of mouth kind of spread, and I actually kind of started to film high school parties where I didn't really even know anybody. I just kind of got referred, and I got, business was conducted, and that's kind of how I made my first money doing photos and videos for high school parties. That was the actual first gigs, I'd say professional gigs, where I got people, even though it was high school parties, I still got booked that way. So that was my first gig as a photographer or videographer.
Okay, so like how did you transition from that into like music related stuff, like music videos, or were you just doing like everything at once?
It kind of led into that. So basically in high school, it was just, it was high school parties and filming anything around my area with friends and family. And originally, once I graduated high school, I actually was accepted into a music college my freshman year in North Carolina, Catawba College. And I actually was going to Catawba College for audio engineering, and that was originally going to be my main career. So I went there, and then obviously I had my camera with me, and it's a music school. So, I'm running into a whole bunch of people in the same field as me, and it just so happens that I have the camera. So, I would film, there was rappers and singers and audio engineers, and I would just film a lot of that stuff there. So basically that's how that whole video and photo kept alive, I guess. And then when I came back home, I linked up with a production company, and I went through as an intern all the way up to audio engineering. And while I was audio engineering, again, I kept the camera around me. I just was trying to think of ways to separate myself compared to, the other audio engineers and just other people in there working in general. So I had the camera in me, and when I had the camera there with me, so, when I would be done audio engineering, I would also take photos or just do miscellaneous kind of videos around the studio. And from there, that's where the CEO of the studio, Cliff Jones, and the production company Soul World Entertainment, that's actually how he basically saw the video and photos I was doing and said, hey, I do work with Tank and Tyrese and them, and they're getting ready to go on, this tour. And, I want to kind of put you involved with them and link you up with them and stuff like that. So that was like my first major gig into the industry was doing a couple shows here and there for Tank. And then I did a couple shows for Tyrese, and then I did a couple shows on tour with them as a collective unit when they were doing the TGT album. So that's kind of like my lead in, I guess I would say, into the music world. A little bit of a long story, but that's kind of how I, fell into the music world as far as video and photo.
So you kind of went in it without like the intention, like you didn't have the intentions of like actually going on tour and all that sort of stuff. It was sort of like you were doing your own thing, and then you're messing with the cameras, and then that opportunity came, or?
So yeah, like I said, originally my career path and vision was related to audio engineering, but obviously, like I said, I've been doing something with the camera since third grade. So it's just like more or less more jobs and more opportunities came with the photo and video, and it just so happens that obviously since I was at the studio, doing both situations, they threw me in that situation. With Tank and Tyrese and Genuine, and that was the first tour situation I dealt with, and it wasn't planned like that, and that wasn't what I was going for. It just kind of stars aligned, the timing was right, and that's just what happened. So from that point on is when I started getting reached out to by other people and other people in my area of a certain caliber, and then that's just kind of like the audio engineering kind of fell in the back burner once the photo and video started to pick up, because I love both. But it just so happens that the video and photo started taking off much faster and quicker than the audio engineering. So as I kept taking more and more jobs, it's kind of like you got to pick one or the other, because they, you can't do both equally. You got to pick one or the other. They're two separate worlds, and you got to invest your time into one of them to become a master, or to really become good at one of them. You got to spend a lot of time in that. So I just chose to pursue the photo and video instead of the audio engineering.
After that, you linked up with like Lil Durk and Chainz, right? So how did that? Was that long after that? After you went on tour with him, or like what happened there? Like yeah.
So the couple of shows that I did with TGT, Tank, Tyrese, and Genuine, that led into me linking up with an influencer in our area by the name of Pat is Dope. And he was basically a huge, he was and still is a huge connection in that area as far as the music world or the business side of the music industry. Like anything that is going on in that town related to music, he knows about, or he has a plug to, or, you know, he knows the who's who in that area. So he had reached out to me. We had met actually at Howard Homecoming while I was filming for Tyrese, and we had met, and he was in need of a photographer, videographer at the time. And he said, I like your work. I always have work going on all through the week. I always have artists that want to get interviewed. I always have business, and I, want to break bread with you. So let's link up and let's start working and see how that goes. And that's how I started doing stuff related to filming artists. I shot music videos for local artists in the area, did photo shoots for artists. And then from there, I met promoters in the DC, Maryland, VA area. One of them was named J-Rock, and that's actually the person who had booked Lil Durk in the area. And he brought me to the show to film Durk obviously through him. So basically I filmed the show, did photos, did video, and I made a connection with Durk's manager, Chino. And I sent him the photos, sent him a video recap, and he contacted me right back and said, me and Durk love the work. We love the turnaround time. We love everything that you're doing. We want you to come on the road with us. We're getting ready to go on tour. So we want you to be our personal photographer, videographer. And that's how I made the connection with Lil Durk, was through J-Rock and doing concert photography, videography in the area. He had also booked, artists like K-Camp and a couple other people. And that's really how I made my first connection with hip-hop artists in the area, was through J-Rock and through going through concerts in the area and doing concert photography, videography for either the promoter or he would personally stick me with, they would stick me with the artist for the day. So there were some situations where I would be with J-Rock, and then there were some situations where I would just be with the artist that day, with them knowing, I'm there for the promoter and I'm there to film the artist for that day. So that's how I made my introduction with Lil Durk. And then 2 Chainz was obviously me being on the road with Lil Durk and still working with Pat. There was a event in Atlanta called A3C, and this was 2 years after meeting and working with Durk, and this had been about 2 tours after working with Durk. I went to Atlanta for this A3C event to help Pat. He had just moved down there, and he was, going to do the same situation that he did in the DC, Maryland, VA area, was filming local artists or, filming whoever wanted to be interviewed or whatever companies wanted to be interviewed. And I did that. And it just so happened at the time, he made a connection with Street Execs PR, Lacey Eakin, and she had us interview everybody except 2 Chainz. So we interviewed Young Dolph, Travis Porter, and Schoolie. I did all of the filming and the photos for those interviews. And at the time, I guess 2 Chainz was kind of like in a, I wouldn't call it a dry spell, but he just was in a, I don't know what the correct word would be, but he wasn't as popular or as poppin' as he was back in 2012, 2013. So his manager let Lacey know that, they were getting ready to start up again, and he was getting ready to get his momentum back, and they, were in need of a photographer, videographer. And it just so happened that at the time that he had let Lacey know that, I had just finished doing the interviews and stuff like that for the other Street Execs artists. So she put my name in the hat. They looked at my work, saw that I did a couple tours with Durk, saw the footage and the photos and videos and stuff from that, contacted me and had me come into the office and sat down and, explained to me that they wanted to offer me a job. But obviously I had to, have a trial run with 2 Chainz. So from that meeting with them, the following weekend, I went on the road with 2 Chainz and did 3 shows back to back to back, and did the photos, did the videos, gave them recaps, all that fun stuff on the road. They contacted me back, said, Chainz loves you. He loves the work. He loves the turnaround time. The job is yours if you want it. We just need you to move down to Atlanta. So the gap between me working with Lil Durk and me linking up with 2 Chainz was 2 years. And then the gap from me coming home from freshman year of college to linking up with Durk was, I think, 6 months to a year. So everything kind of happened in a fast-paced situation. Some people wait 5 or 10 years to get those kind of opportunities, and there may be huge gaps, but mine wasn't that long. So that's kind of how I got working with Durk and 2 Chainz.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I was wondering, because not a lot of people get to go on tour with artists. Like, how is that? How is the sleep? how's the turnaround times, like how fast paced is it? Like,
so it all depends. I would tell people it all depends on what kind of artist and what caliber artist you're working with. Obviously, if you're working with an up and coming artist, they're new to the situation. You two are kind of in the same boat, so you both are learning things together as far as being on the road and tour life. So I think it's a little bit more lenient, and not as much is expected when you're on the road with a new artist or an up and coming artist, because just like I said, you both are learning the situations together. But if you're dealing with a seasoned veteran, or a person that's been in the game and had platinum plaques and had platinum singles and been doing it like 2 Chainz, it's a whole nother level. So turnaround time is expected to be faster. I tell people all the time, when I first linked with Chainz, I knew I had to be on my A game, and he pushes everybody around him to be on their A game and to constantly progress and outdoing themselves and getting better and learning new things and stuff like that. So even especially, going from Lil Durk to working with 2 Chainz, the differences were vast, because Durk, at the time that I was doing stuff with him, he had just came out with the "This Ain't What You Want," but he hadn't put out an album yet. And then, like I said, doing the 2 tours with Durk, I went through 2 albums with him, so we kind of grew together in that situation. But once I linked with 2 Chainz, it was, turnaround time. I'm giving him his photos in like an hour. Video recaps I'm doing in, a day or less of whatever we're doing, concerts, show appearances, anything in general related to him going out. I'm doing recaps and photos, and it's definitely a higher expectation when you work with an artist like that. And as far as tour life, I think you have to be built for that. It is a lot of sacrifices. Obviously, you will be gone from your home. You will be gone from your friends, your family. It's a very fast-paced environment, especially if you're working with somebody like the caliber of 2 Chainz. There is a lot of sleep missed because he does work all the time. And, we say we may go to a concert. The concert starts at 10 or 11 at night. You get done at 1. You got to, edit photos. You got to do video recaps, and he still is going to be recording. So even while you're editing and doing stuff like that, you still got to be with him and still trying to capture moments or capture situations and stuff like that. I basically try to let people know that, in my opinion, probably the artist and photographer build a very close relationship, because of the fact of the photographer, videographer, director, whatever, is always with the artist, trying to make sure they're capturing some type of moment for that artist. And more or less, when the artist is up and doing something related to them being an artist, the photographer, etc., has to be with them. So, Chainz may be up from 9 o'clock until 6 a.m. the next day working as 2 Chainz, so you have to be there with them. So tour life is definitely or just working with an artist as a personal photographer, videographer, director, editor, etc., is very fast-paced and can be strenuous at times. But I think you have to be built for that kind of situation. It's not for everybody. You can be the most talented photographer or videographer in the world, but if you can't live up to that road life, then you're not going to last long with an artist.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was wondering that for a long time, because that's kind of a goal of mine to like I was just recently getting into event, photo and video. Like, you saw my tutorial on a concert. I just been going to a lot of shows and just taking pictures and just trying to get my stuff out there. And so something like that is super interesting to me. I was also wondering that period of time where you had to move to Atlanta for the job, right? How was that? What was your living situation at that time? Because I'm sure you it's kind of tough to just move out of nowhere, right? So how was that?
So luckily I got lucky in that situation, because like I said, Pat had been living down there for about 6 months before I even came to do the A3C event with him, which led to me being booked as 2 Chainz personal photographer, videographer. So when I moved to Atlanta, I actually just did the smart thing and moved in with him until I was able to save up a certain amount of money to get my own apartment and to live by myself. We actually, I lived in his apartment. I lived in his first apartment with him for about 6 months to a year, and I just slept on the futon, because I also looked at it Chainz is always getting booked and we're always on the road, or I may be going back home and doing indie work with clients and artists. So I wasn't really expecting to be in an apartment that much. So I just said, hey, I'll, give you this amount of money and I'll just sleep on your futon. He had a 1-bedroom with obviously I slept on the futon for the first 6 months to a year. And then we got our own spot, a 3-bedroom, after about a year. And, obviously I had my own room, which I really was never in. Out of a month, I was probably in my apartment a week total out of a month. And then after about a year of staying in a 3-bedroom, I moved and got my own place, and that's where I'm currently at right now. So yeah. It kind of worked out. Luckily, like I said, I had somebody already living down here, so it wasn't a situation where I just moved out here by myself completely and didn't have anybody down here I knew. I also had my homie, C. Ryan, who had been living down here for about 6 months to a year, I think, when I moved down here, and he lived actually right across from my apartment complex, across the street from where Pat was living. So the first 6 months to a year, he lived right across the apartment complex from me. And then when I moved into my own apartment, my own 1-bedroom apartment, he lives in the same apartment complex as me. So that's how we're able to always work with each other. And people will probably see me on his, YouTube videos or on his vlogs or vice versa, because we're so close to each other and we've built a personal relationship outside of business.
Yeah, you always talk about collaboration and all that sort of stuff. I see it on your Instagram all the time. Can you just touch bases on that? Like, why you think it's so important to build a team around you, how you met Ryan, and just like overall why I know you made a video on it, but for anybody who hasn't watched it or hasn't, who doesn't know your work, what do you have to say about collaboration?
So there's a lot of people who look at collaboration as their mind goes to negative. It goes to, if I collaborate with somebody, they're going to steal my ideas, or they're going to steal my clients, or they're going to, just insert your negative thought process in there. And I look at it from a very positive standpoint. I think that collaboration is key to progressing to the next level, to progressing to a higher level in general. Obviously, you can't shoot a major music video production by yourself. You can't do a movie by yourself. You have to get past a certain level. You have to collaborate with people. I think it makes you better, because you're obviously going to be weak at certain things and you're going to be strong at certain things. You're going to have strong traits. You're going to have certain traits that you're not as strong in. So linking up with other people, they may have the strong traits that you may have, they may be weak in, and vice versa. So you two are helping each other when you collaborate, and you're getting different ideas, you're getting a different viewpoint, you're getting a different perspective, you're getting a different creative mind. So for example, when I work with C. Ryan, he has a different vision than I do, and that sometimes helps in the process. Sometimes we clash, sometimes we clash, sometimes we're on the same accord, or basically his idea helps the situation. But that's just the process of collaborating with somebody. Not every time we're both going to agree on something, or you're going to agree on something with somebody. But I think in the long term of things, collaborating is definitely something that you should do and that everybody should do. You just got to be smart about it. Obviously, there is people out there that have ulterior motives and do want to just try to use you and stuff like that. But, that's kind of usually easy to see. Or if you have a feeling in your gut, just follow your gut. If your gut's telling you that this isn't a good situation, then go with your gut. There's plenty of people in the world to collaborate with. We have social media, we have online things. You found me through an online situation, and that's how we even linked up physically and met at a show, and now we're doing a podcast together. If I hadn't collaborated with C. Ryan and he hadn't introduced me to YC, then you would have never met me, and we would have never linked up, and this podcast wouldn't be happening, and I wouldn't have done a podcast with Justin and so forth. So, like I said, obviously, me collaborating with people has gotten me a new fan base that I wouldn't have probably been able to get if I hadn't collaborated with people. So that's just an example right there. And I met C. Ryan. He's from Virginia and I'm from Maryland. So we had actually met through an artist that I was working with, had a feature with an artist, and C. Ryan was the one who shot that music video. And that's how I had originally met C. Ryan, was on set of a music video shoot that he was filming for the artist that I worked with that was featured on the song. And then from there, he was working with a T2i camera at the time, and I was working with a 5D camera. And I had seen his work prior to that, but I hadn't really known who he was. I just kind of seen his work in passing, and I thought, his work was amazing. I thought his work was dope, and I thought he was using the same camera as me or better. And when I originally met him, is when I saw that he was using the T2i, not even a T3i, which is what I started with. And I was just mind blown. He was the first person that really made me realize and showed me that, it doesn't matter what camera you have. It matters, who's the person behind the camera and what they learn and mastering the equipment that you have. And, he had videos better than people with 5Ds and up, and he had a starter camera to most people. So that's how I originally met C. Ryan. And from there, basically, he wanted to upgrade his camera at the time, so I had a plug for cameras and lenses and stuff like that. And I am the one who got him his first 6D. He purchased it through me and my plug, and then he moved to Atlanta. And then, like I said, when I moved to Atlanta, I already knew he was down there. So that's how we made our relationship stronger, and how we basically created a personal relationship outside of work.
I guess I'm in like the process of building a team. I met with like a lot of people. Like right now, I'm at a point where I'm just trying to put myself out there and just like go everywhere, be everywhere, so I can meet the right people. And like recently, somebody reached out to me and kind of linked me up with this director, and I did behind the scenes and like all that sort of stuff, and it's been going great. So I like definitely agree with collaboration and all that. I think you grow together, you learn things from each other, and you help each other. So definitely agree with you on that point. Just for like everybody listening, when you're recording a music video, like what is required? Like what does each person on your team do? What are like some of the hard things to do? Like what do people not know or understand about or get wrong about music videos? And yeah, just the whole overall thing. So
with music videos, if I'm going to have a team with me, first off, it depends on what the budget is, because if it's a smaller budget, then most of the time, if it's a small budget where I don't have the funds to support a staff involved with the situation, it'll usually just be me, or I may have myself and a couple people that I'm close with. Like for instance, C. Ryan will come help me out on set, and I have a couple other people that I built in the area. But if it's a situation where I need like an actual full-on team and things like that, again, I would still have C. Ryan and those people, but they'll just be getting, they'll have more jobs to do in that situation. Obviously, for a music video set, you're going to have about 90 to 100% of the time, if there's the budget there, you're going to have a director, you're going to have a DP, director of photography, you'll have a gaffer, you'll have assistants / interns. You'll probably have a behind-the-scenes photographer, videographer there. And obviously, what you just try to do is make sure that each person that is there has a specific job. Sometimes it'll fall into a situation where the director may have to be the DP as well. The lighting person may also have to be the gaffer / assistant. So it just depends on the budget and what's entailed for the music video. But a standard music video, I would say you're going to have a director, a DP, a lighting / gaffer, and then a assistant intern, and then if you can, a behind-the-scenes photographer / videographer.
That's like a lot to think about, like how many people it takes to finish a high budget music video. I was looking at YC's tweets on Twitter. He was talking about building a team, and how like he made a video on why he doesn't want to edit anymore, I believe. And it was sort of, I didn't understand at first, but it kind of makes sense after like listening to you and watching the video. And so like definitely I think people get it wrong, where if you're not the one filming it, you're not really the one creating it. I think it all goes together. I was also wondering, like, what's your stance on tagging and giving credit on stuff? Because you talk about that a lot. It's been all over your Instagram for like the past month. You made videos on it. I see a lot of people who don't credit. I went to SneakerCon. I took a bunch of pictures, and I sent it to all of the influencers there, and like half of them didn't tag me, and so like I kind of feel it. But like, what's your stance on that?
So My stance on tagging and giving proper credit to our photographers and videographers is obviously my stance is it should happen. Now, myself, C. Ryan, and Urban Scope did a video on my YouTube talking about that. And there were some things that C. Ryan didn't agree with me on as far as tagging and crediting photographers. And that situation was, I feel like it doesn't matter if you get paid or not. No matter what the situation is, no matter if you get paid or you don't, it should be the same. It should be, you should get tagged in the form of a tag, an @ or some proper credit when these people repost your work. There's only two reasons why I feel like that doesn't happen. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're paid or not. I feel like if somebody doesn't properly tag, @ or credit your work, they don't respect you personally or your craft, or they just don't want to see you they don't want to see you progress and elevate to a bigger level. It may be a situation where you're working closely with an artist and they never tag or @ you. I feel like that falls into one of those categories. It may not be that they don't respect you or your craft. It may just be that they want to keep you close to them. They don't want to see you progress and elevate to a level to where somebody bigger than them or a company bigger than them may approach you and try to take you from them, or it may get to a situation even where you become an entity in your own and you become such a big brand on your own through your personal, photography and videography that you don't need an artist anymore. You don't need a company anymore. You can go out and just basically work for yourself situation. So I think when it comes to tagging and crediting photographers and videographers, directors, editors, it needs to happen, and it should happen. There's going to be people that disagree with me, but again, it's an opinion-based situation. But I think that, like I said, personally, and in my opinion, if you're not properly credited, tagged, or it's going to fall into one of those two categories of, they don't respect you or your craft, or they just don't want to see you progress and elevate. So that's my stance on that, and that's how I felt since I first got into the industry, and since I first started being professional, since I started becoming a professional photographer, videographer, and that will probably always be my stance until I stop doing photography and videography.
Even like I do free work for people and they don't want to tag me. I find that like really ridiculous.
And that's definitely like the biggest situation where you should be tagged or credited, because it's like at that point, if you're coming out there and doing free work, what are you getting out of that? Like, it's got to be you got to have a situation where it's beneficial for both sides. Obviously, the artist or whoever you're doing the work for is not having to pay you. So there has to be a give and take there. If a photographer, a videographer is going to come out and do free work for you, you have to give them something besides cash or check or whatever, which is a tag, an @ or proper credit for the photos or stuff that you're using from them.
I think like I have two more questions and then we're gonna end it off. I was wondering, now that you're building your your personal brand and you're uploading on YouTube more, like how do you what's your schedule like? Because you have to be you're making your own content now, and then you have you're needed by other people you work with, probably indie artists as well. Like how often are you needed? Because you are a personal photographer for 2 Chainz, and then you also have your own work.
So luckily, we're in November right now. November and December on our schedule. This is the first time this is the first time since I've worked for 2 Chainz in the last 2 years where we've had more than a week off. So November and December, there's very sporadic dates on the schedule. There's not a lot of dates booked on the schedule, so that has basically opened up my schedule as far as having to work with Chainz and being able to focus on working with indie clients, and obviously being able to focus on my brand and uploading to my YouTube on a consistent basis. So for the last 2 years, I haven't really had a chance to upload regularly to YouTube. I try to, after watching people like YC and C. Ryan and people like my homie Chaos and other people who really had to buckle down, Cotton Films, you have to have a schedule and you have to have a lot of time to devote to your YouTube channel if you're trying to build up a YouTube channel. I mean, that's a job in itself. So, working with an artist full time like 2 Chainz, I mean, that takes up a lot of your time. not just, doing the work for that artist, but traveling. And, you got to find time for sleep. You got to find time to have a personal life to keep your sanity. So I wasn't really able to, and I mean, on top of that, not just working with 2 Chainz, but, like you said, when I wasn't doing jobs with 2 Chainz, I would either be with Durk or I would be moving around working with indie artists. So the YouTube situation, I kind of, would sporadically upload here and there, but I never had a consistent schedule like what I've been doing now. So I just took the opportunity and looked at it like, obviously I have a lot of downtime in November, December from Chainz, and I'm not going to be having to travel a lot unless I choose to with local artists or Durk if he has something going on. So I've tried to put that emphasis and put that time and effort into building up my brand, because obviously I do know that after November and December, it's the top of the year. I'm sure that Chainz will get back into a heavy workflow and heavy busy schedule. I mean, he just got nominated for 3 Grammys. Which I know the Grammys is in February, so I know before that and after that, he's going to be booked and he's going to be in a lot of situations, and I'm sure he's got more albums in the works if he hasn't already finished albums ready to go. So yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to more or less do a heavy workload and a heavy work overflow to catch up for the time that I wasn't able to upload to my YouTube. So I'm really trying to either upload daily or at worst case every other day until I have to get back on the road. And hopefully by that point I would have created a big enough brand and a big enough fan base to where I can afford to upload weekly like I was instead of daily, and still have the fan base and still have the attention and still have everything that needs to operate a popular YouTube channel. So that's the plans and goals for right now.
I'm guessing you're trying to like build your personal brand right now. Is that what you're trying to do in the future? And like, I know you're trying to sustain that right now. Is that like your only goals like for now, or do you have like other things you want to do and accomplish besides just building up a YouTube channel? Oh
yeah, of course that's not the only thing. I mean, I've always been trying to build my brand up, even when I'm was traveling full time with Chainz or traveling full time with Durk. It's never been a situation where I haven't been trying to build up my personal brand. I've always been trying to do that, even if it doesn't focus on uploading to YouTube, because obviously, your personal brand is your Instagram, your Facebook, your social media platforms. So I've always been doing something to build up my personal brand. Obviously, building up a YouTube channel is a heavy factor in goals as far as in the future and what I'm doing right now, but also obviously progressing and doing more work outside of just being the personal photographer and videographer for 2 Chainz. I already shoot a lot of Lil Durk's music videos now. I progressed from just being his personal road photographer, videographer, to shooting his music videos and directing a majority of his music videos now. So I'm trying to do the same thing with Chainz. I'm trying to I have a lot of other major artists that have been seeing the music videos that I've directed for Durk and indie artists, and they've been reaching out to me. So I'm also trying to expand my catalog as far as working with artists for music videos, directing music videos, editing music videos, stuff like that. I still assist C. Ryan whenever he needs me. He does a lot of music videos with indie artists, and he'll also assist me on set when I work with major artists. So as far as becoming a bigger director, that's another goal. I'm eventually trying to move to LA and do something in the film world. That's like the end goal I wouldn't say the end goal, but that's like a major goal of mine in the future. So yeah, I mean, just building my personal brand and my YouTube would be a small percentage of everything that I'm trying to get done between now and in the future.
I know you've been, you probably met like every single hip hop artist, like not every, but like a lot of hip hop artists in the last 2 years, because you've been around, 2 really influential ones. Do you have like a favorite moment or something you've learned while you're on tour, or just some sort of advice or sort of value you can give to the audience about anything you've learned over the, past 2 years?
So I guess the biggest thing that I can tell people if they're trying to become a photographer, director, videographer is just believe in yourself, work hard. I know it sounds cliche to say, but that's all. And just if you work hard and you stay patient and you do good by people and you do good business, eventually whatever you're trying to do, there will be an opportunity to present itself. And as long as you were working hard and honing in on your craft and putting in that time, when that opportunity comes, you'll be ready for it, instead of, just trying to skate by and do dirty business with people and stuff like that. So I would just tell people to whatever their goal is, to just keep working hard at it, and the stars will align for an opportunity for you. As far as like the favorite moment being on the road or just being with 2 Chainz, because obviously that's how I've met all of the major artists that I have. Obviously the biggest moment for me personally would be meeting Eminem and being able to take photos of Eminem and being able to take a photo with Eminem. That's my favorite artist to date. I mean, so that was always a bucket list goal of mine. That was like the highest bucket list goal I had as far as photography related to an artist was getting at least one photo of him or doing some type of video work for him and getting a photo with him. So being with Chainz, I was able to do that and just soaking up all the knowledge and all the advice and everything that Chainz gets from these artists, or Chainz gives to these artists or to these people, or vice versa. I'm the fly on the wall, but I also soak up all of that knowledge and all of that stuff, all that game. It's free game, it's free knowledge, it's free gems. These are successful people. 2 Chainz is an established, successful artist who's reinvented himself 2 times now. He was Titty Boy and he turned that into 2 Chainz, and he had 2 separate careers, and that's something that a huge percentage of people aren't able to do, and he's been able to have a very long-lasting career in this industry. So I've learned a lot by watching him, and he's taught me a lot. So really a lot, just being around Chainz and watching how he moves and watching how he works and the work ethic he has, and how he takes care of the people around him, and how he wants the people around him to succeed and to make money just like him. And he wants everybody around him that's working for him or that he knows that's working around him, he wants them to become millionaires, just like he is. So that's kind of like the biggest things that I've been able to do being on the road is acquire free knowledge and free gems and be around these artists and watch them conversate with Chainz and vice versa, and just pick up the knowledge from them, and just being the fly on the wall, watching all this stuff and soaking up as much as I can from these people. Yeah, man. I appreciate everything. First of all, just coming on to this podcast, even though you don't have to or anything like that. I appreciate it. If anyone wants to check out his channel, it'll be in the description. You can listen on SoundCloud, Anchor, Google Play, iTunes, whatever. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, see you in the next one.